My apologies for being late with today's video report, but let me tell you something, guys. When it comes to handicapping a baseball card, I can do a whole slate of games in less than an hour. Preseason football, we're talking about another animal entirely. I probably spent a good 5 to 6 hours between yesterday and today just handicapping today's card. And I don't even have a vested interest in today's card. I didn't have money on tonight's games, but you have to handicap the games to see if you're going to perhaps want to play them. And whether I play them or not, I want to pass on some valuable information to you in the form of free plays and also some betting tidbits that I learned along the way, because I know that you're not going to take the time to certainly do all the internet searches to see which is real information. And it's an amazing thing in the preseason how much bad information is out there on sites, handicapping sites, by handicappers that are absolutely clueless because they're lazy SOBs and they're not willing to put in the time to do the research. I just don't get that at all. And, you know, I figure if I'm going to do the research, well, that's what I do, because this is my job. This is what I do 365 days a year. And there's a reason that you come to these sites, and there's a reason that you watch these reports, because again, this is what I do for a living. It's what you don't have the time to do. Now, as I said, I don't have any skin in the game tonight. My best bet happened to be earlier today, and it was a loser. Yes, I lost with the Cleveland Indians on the run line at home against Minnesota, minus $1.10. Hey, I thought it was a great play. I had Corey Kluber, who was 2-0 with a 0.55 earned run average in his last two starts, who had been magnificent at home the past couple of years. The Indians staked him to a 4-0 lead against Minnesota, but he gave up the lead. Indians winning in walk-off fashion, 5-4, which did me no good, laying the 1.5 runs, certainly. So, what can I say? It lost, but it's not going to stop me. I mean, listen, it was potential 20-dime, raised the bar winner number 10 out of 14 over the past 2 weeks. It was potential winning day number 28 out of 41. And you know what? If I find a play I absolutely love tomorrow, I'm going to come right back. Because losing is part of gambling, and you have to accept it. You're not going to win every single day. And anybody who claims he does or claims they will do so for you, well, they're lying. That's the bottom line. And there's a lot of liars in this business, as you are well aware of. Yes, and they're usually telling you everything is absolutely free. They're usually giving you these amazing records that are telling you that they've won like 87% of their top plays since 1994. And you're going, oh, really? Yeah. And they've got a bridge in Brooklyn and swampland in Florida and great desert property someplace to sell you as well. So there you go. So listen, on today's video report, and you know with the complimentary plays, I've won 8 out of 11 since Friday. A little longer run, 55 and 32 with the last 87. I'm going to take a look at baseball at the game between the Astros and the Mariners, and I'm going to dip my toes in the preseason and take a look at the games between the Bills and Panthers and Saints Jaguars, and also give you some of the preseason tips and notes that I acquired after doing all those 5 or 6 hours of research today online. In terms of this day in history, let's talk about a couple of interesting things that went on. We'll get to the lighthearted fare. Well, it's not that lighthearted if you happen to be Jerry Garcia fan. The Grateful Dead, big shot, passed away on this day in 1995. In the sports world, Wayne Gretzky traded to the LA Kings in 1988. I'm sorry, I know he played a lot of years with the Kings, but Wayne Gretzky will forever be an Edmonton Oiler. And in a tragic sense, these two notes. On this day in 1969, the Manson family murdered, slaughtered would be the correct word, slaughtered 5, including actress Sharon Tate, who was pregnant with at Roman Polanski's home. That was her husband, the director Roman Polanski's home in Beverly Hills in 1969. And of course, the biggest news today, in 1945, the second atomic bomb was dropped in Nagasaki, Japan, which of course came just 4 days after the first bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. Even though 80,000 people were killed almost instantly when the first bomb was dropped in Hiroshima, even though another 60,000 or 35,000 were injured, even though 60,000 more were going to die in the following year because of the effects of the radiation poisoning and fallout. Even though all those casualties were incurred 4 days earlier, the Japanese War Council refused the unconditional surrender terms that were being requested by the Potsdam Council after the first bomb was dropped. So it was already built, the second atomic bomb, and Harry Truman ordered that to be dropped on Nagasaki. And another 60 to 80,000 lives were lost on this day in 1945. And do you know the War Council still was somewhat divided as to whether or not they were going to surrender even after that tragedy, travesty, whatever word you want to choose. Finally, of course, the Emperor of Japan, Hirohito, met with the War Council and declared in that famous quote, continuing the war can only result in the annihilation of the Japanese people. And it's a damn good thing, because it was estimated that the third atomic bomb would have been ready and would have been built in time to drop somewhere around August 17th or August 18th on another city in Japan. So there you go. So that's this day in history. And now let's get to the fun and games department, shall we? Let's talk about the baseball complimentary play. The Houston Astros have not supported Justin Verlander at all and pitching at home. That's why, despite an outstanding earned run average pitching at home, which is 2.57, he only has a 2-4 record. But listen, last Friday at Los Angeles, he was just superb, matching a career season high with 14 strikeouts, holding the Dodgers to 1 run, which came in the first inning, and 4 hits in 7 2/3 innings. His last 3 starts, he's allowed 3 runs in 18 2/3 innings, and he struck out 32 and walked just 4. Justin Verlander has made me a lot of money this season, and he's made me a lot of money since late last season when the Astros acquired him from Detroit, and he's just one of my go-to guys. Now, it has me somewhat concerned that the Astros are -3 regulars, George Springer, and their double play combination of Correa and Altuve. But I just cannot resist going with the Astros on the run line at plus $1.40 tonight against Seattle. And I know the Mariners' James Paxton has been superb. Absolutely superb. 3-0 with a 0.87 earned run average against the Astros this season. In fact, the Astros just returned home after a very successful 6-2 road trip that started in Seattle, continued against the Dodgers in LA, and finished up in San Francisco. And that road trip started with a loss against Paxton and the Mariners. But odds are that he's not going to beat the Astros for a 4th straight time. And also, the Mariners have only scored 7 runs total in Paxton's last 5 starts. And this is a Mariners team that's lost 7 of its last 9 games. A Mariners team that's lost 8 of its last 10 on the road. Remember when the Mariners were on that great winning streak where they had reeled off 8 straight wins end of June, early July? I was riding them non-stop at that time. 4th of July, they lost at home to the LA Angels. Since that 4th of July loss, they've lost 19 of 29 games. Their bullpen has collapsed. Their starting pitching has only been so-so with the exception of Paxton, and their offense has been inconsistent at best. That's why I'm willing to lay the 1.5 runs with Verlander, take back money at plus $1.40, and give the Astros a shot, even though they have lost 6 of their last 8 at home. So the Astros are going to be the play there in baseball. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the preseason football picks here tonight. Listen, preseason football. The most important thing you have to know in week number 1 is what the quarterback rotations are going to be like. Listen, the starters, if they play at all, and especially the starting quarterback, maybe a series, maybe 2 series. Very unlikely they're going to play even a quarter. Very, very unlikely. So it comes down to who's going to get the bulk of the work, with a bunch of guys that are going to be unemployed, just like me and you, in terms of our NFL futures, in about a week and a half. That's what it comes down to. So when I look at these games tonight, the first one I looked at was the Buffalo game at home, where the Bills are a 3-point favorite, 2.5 to 3-point favorite against Carolina. Now, everybody knows that Buffalo went out and drafted Josh Allen out of Wyoming. Josh Allen has not been running with the first team during camp. It has been A.J. McCarron, who, of course, got his exile finally, got his papers to get the hell out of Cincinnati. They signed him, and Nathan Peterman, who we last saw was throwing 114 interceptions in his first career start against San Diego last year before suffering the knee injury. They have been splitting the first team reps. McCarron is expected to start. Peterman is going to follow him. They're going to see the bulk of the action before giving way to Josh Allen, probably, who's going to make his debut in the second half of this game. I like that rotation, because when I compare it to Carolina's rotation tonight, where Cam Newton, if he plays, maybe only a series or two, is going to give away to Garrett Gilbert, whose last meaningful action was last August, in preseason play when he was the number 3 quarterback behind Newton and Derek Anderson. Well, Derek Anderson was not re-signed. So Garrett Gilbert is competing for the number 3 job with a guy who they signed here during the offseason, Taylor Henneke, I think is how you pronounce his name, and a rookie by the name of Kyle Allen. You've got a Carolina offensive line that, surprise, surprise, is once again already beaten up. They lost their starting left guard on Tuesday to a knee injury that's going to keep him out of 4-6 weeks. They already lost their starting right tackle, Darrell Williams, 2 weeks ago to a torn MCL and a dislocated kneecap, which he hopes to come back this season. So they've lost 2 starters. They're already thin against that along that offensive line. So that's 2 strikes against them, playing a quarterback who doesn't have a lot of experience, and the Bills have the home field advantage. And that's good enough for me. Now, do the Bills have a weak wide receiver core? Yeah. Are they shallow in the backfield? Yeah. But they've got, I think, the advantage of quarterback. So I'd lay the 3 points or 2.5 points. And if the line's 3, 3.5, 4, I'm absolutely buying down the half point as I always do. So that's going to be the first play. The next play tonight, I like New Orleans plus the 2.5 at Jacksonville. And in this case, if the line's 2.5 up to 4, I'm buying up the half a point on the Saints. Now, the last time we saw the Saints, they were losing that game, we recall, against Minnesota, the Stephon Diggs, that improbable touchdown catch in the divisional playoff game against the Vikings that sent the Saints home packing. That sunk their season. This is the first time they're going to be back in official game action. Of course, we're not going to see Drew Brees. Probably, if he takes a snap tonight, we're not going to see him much. So who's going to be quarterbacking the Saints tonight? Whew, it's going to be Tom Savage, who was run out of the rails out of Houston, but he's going to be backing up or competing with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, the former BYU star, who was signed last September after getting his release by the Packers, and Sean Payton brought him in and pretty much anointed him as the heir apparent to Drew Brees. That's pretty high praise there by Sean Payton. Hill actually played mainly on special teams once he was activated by the Saints during the regular season. I like that quarterback competition. Now, yeah, J.T. Barrett, the rookie out of Ohio State, might see some action in the second half as well. Now, compare that to what Jacksonville has going for you. If Blake Bortles even sees a series here tonight, after Blake Bortles, what do they got? Well, they got Cody Kessler, who used to play for the Browns, and after that, they got Tanner Lee. Tell me, you remember Tanner Lee in college? Exactly. I'm not impressed with what the Jaguars have here. I like the Saints in this one, plus the 2.5 or more. Listen, the Saints at least last year showed up in the preseason, going 2-2 after 2 straight winless preseasons. So again, I like the Saints plus the points in that one. Now, let me give you some other little tidbits I gathered in preseason research here tonight. Let me just look at my notes. I think Chicago has an inherent advantage because they're going to play a second preseason game tonight after playing in the Hall of Fame game last week. I will tell you that Mitchell Trubisky is going to see at least a series or 2 tonight with the starters where they didn't play last week against Baltimore before giving way to Tyler Bray and Chase Daniel, who each played 1 half last week against the Ravens. It was an 17-16 loss against Baltimore, but the Bears covered in that game. They were anywhere from a 2.5 to 5.5 point favorite and underdog in that game, depending on when you bet it during the week. I would suspect that you're going to see a little more balance from the offense there from Chicago, because last week they threw the ball 50 times, only ran it 19 times. But the defense certainly did a nice job holding Baltimore to just 200 yards total, a little under 200 yards of total offense. Of course, the Ravens had offensive problems last year. They didn't play Joe Flacco and R.J. Griffin and what's his name out of Louisville? His name escapes me right now. The rookie. You're all saying, ow, his name is... And I can't think of his name right now. So who the hell cares? We move on. But the one thing that really the Chicago did was they put great quarterback pressure. They really brought the heat. They had 8 sacks, and Baltimore had one of the best offensive lines in football last year. Cincinnati does not have a very good offensive line. It's a rebuilding offensive line, one that still has injury concerns going into this season. Pro Football Focus had them ranked as the 28th best offensive line last year, and going into this season, they have them ranked as the 26th best offensive line. Cincinnati 1-3 straight up and against the spread at home in preseason over the past 2 years. Cincinnati has a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, and they have the biggest problem of all. They still have Marvin Lewis as their head coach. You're not going to see Andy Dalton most likely tonight. Instead, you're going to see Matt Barkley, who they went out, a career backup, and signed to be the backup to Andy Dalton to this big 2-year, $3.3 million contract with another $3 million in bonus incentives. He's going to see extensive action tonight along with the former Florida Gator, Jeff, do you pronounce his last name? Drisick, I believe, who spent last year on injured reserve after breaking his thumb in August. The prior year, he was a second-string quarterback for them. Again, I think that the Bears are an interesting play here tonight because, again, they have a game already under their belt. I've seen a lot of misinformation out there regarding the Browns quarterback rotation here tonight. Some sites saying that Baker Mayfield will see just limited action here tonight, or just some mop-up duty. Not according to the Cleveland Browns beat writers. Baker Mayfield is going to probably play about a half tonight for the Browns. He has been playing mainly with just the second-teamers and third-teamers during the preseason, but he is expected to play about a half here tonight. Now, the Giants, who may or may not give Eli Manning any action tonight, are expected to give Davis Webb the bulk of the playing time. He's expected to play about a half before giving way to their rookie, the guy they drafted out of Richmond, Kyle Luletta, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Baker Mayfield's going to see the bulk of the action for the Browns. Drew Stanton is probably going to see some action. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing. I lean a little toward the Brownies in that one. The Steelers tonight, will you see Ben Roethlisberger? Does it really matter? Landry Jones is going to see the bulk of the action starting-wise, but you're going to see Mason Randolph, going to see him getting some action. Funny thing about Philadelphia, who they're playing tonight, the Eagles are a 3-point favorite. I saw some sites where Carson Wentz is listed as questionable. What world are they living in? Carson Wentz isn't playing tonight. Carson Wentz is not playing tonight. Nick Foles is not playing tonight. Nate Sudfeld is going to see most of your action tonight at quarterback before giving way to, I think, the backup. The only other quarterback that's going to see action tonight is Joe Callahan. So those are your tidbits tonight. I wish you well, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.